This video is brought to you by Imprint. Anyone who pays even the slightest attention to Italian politics knows it has a reputation for instability. In fact, Italy has a remarkable average turnover rate of a new government roughly every 13 months. On top of this, the past decade and a half has seen the dramatic rise and fall of several very different political forces. However, the years since Giorgia Meloni came to power in 2022 have been, by Italian standards, a period of relative political stability, and a glance at the polls could indicate that the country is trending towards something more akin to a two-party system. So in this video, we're going to take a look at Italy's mercurial political history, its modern politics, and whether the country has solved its chronic instability.
Before we start, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell to stay in the loop and be notified when we release new videos.
So let's start by winding the clock back to the post-World War II era. The new Republican Constitution, which came into force in 1948, set up a strong legislature and comparatively weak executive branch, designed in part to prevent any one person or party from consolidating too much power. This was unsurprising given Italy's not too distant experience with fascism. This began a near half-century period referred to as the First Republic, in which the political landscape was dominated largely by two political camps. On one side was the Christian Democracy Party, a socially conservative, broad-based, Christian-inspired party that united moderates from the left and right, and was guided by its support for European integration and the Atlantic Alliance with the United States. The Christian Democrats remained the largest party in parliament until 1994, and through alliances with smaller centre-left and centre-right parties, it was at the centre of every government during the First Republic. On the other side was the Communist Party, reliably electorally successful as the second largest political force, but perennially in opposition. The party was initially aligned with the Soviet Union, but over the years distanced itself from the USSR in favour of Euro-communism, something more akin to democratic socialism. Anyway, the early 90s saw a total upheaval of Italy's politics and the collapse of its party system, brought about by the end of the Cold War, which rendered the divide between the two main camps obsolete and prompted the dissolution of the Communist Party, and a massive corruption scandal that engulfed the major parties. By 1994, the so-called First Republic had ended, and that year's election was held under a new electoral system. This new post-94 era saw Italian politics transition into what you might consider a more standard bipolar democratic system, with alternating centre-left and centre-right governments. Dominating the centre-right was mega-wealthy media mogul Silvio Berlusconi, who had only entered the political field in 1994 at the head of his populist centre-right Forza Italia. Berlusconi headed 4 non-consecutive coalitions as PM, totaling a combined 9 years across the 94 to 2011 period. Meanwhile, the centre-left, which governed in between Berlusconi's premierships, was led by what would eventually become the Democratic Party. This system was not to last though, and the 2010s brought dramatic change, with rising anti-establishment forces ushering in a new period of instability and a sort of tripolar system. The 2013 election saw the beginning of the rise of the Five Star Movement, a Eurosceptic populist outfit that rejected the left-right spectrum. The parliamentary arithmetic prompted the formation of an awkward and short-lived grand coalition, largely comprising the Democratic Party and Silvio Berlusconi's alliance. This was followed by another Democratic-led coalition, but this only lasted a few years before Prime Minister Matteo Renzi resigned in late 2016 after his flagship constitutional reforms were decisively rejected in a referendum. A caretaker prime minister was then appointed who led the country towards an election in 2018, which delivered a political earthquake. Five Star surged to become the largest individual party, although the centre-right coalition became the largest overall alliance. Within the centre-right coalition, though, Matteo Salvini's rebranded Nationalist Populist League emerged as the bloc's dominant party, surpassing Forza Italia. Meanwhile, the centre-left coalition fell to third. So with no individual party or coalition holding a majority, Italy faced an impasse, and eventually Five Star and League formed a populist coalition led by Giuseppe Conte. However, Conte's first government collapsed after just over a year, when Salvini pulled the plug in August 2019. Five Star then formed a Conte-led government with the Democrats, which itself collapsed a year and a half later, after which, in early 2021, Mario Draghi was brought in to lead a big tent coalition, joined by virtually all parties except the far-right Brothers of Italy. The emergence of League and Five Star as powerful political forces may have, at the time, seemed to herald the beginning of a new political era. In fact, Five Star leader Luigi Di Maio in 2018 declared that the Third Republic has started, ending the so-called Second Republic which had emerged in the 90s. However, the lead up to and the time since the 2022 election has seen yet another dramatic change in the party landscape, with League and Five Star falling far from their peaks. Salvini's League, having been the largest right-wing party in 2018, would go on to rise to a dizzying 37% in the polls and convincingly win the 2019 European elections, before experiencing a rapid decline for several reasons. Strategic errors by Salvini, the internal strain caused by his rebranding of the previously Northern Party into a national one, the contradiction of being an anti-establishment Eurosceptic party, joining a pro-European government led by an ex-European central bank chief, and so on. All of this contributed to an exodus of supporters moving to Brothers of Italy, which benefited from greater ideological coherence, stronger leadership under Giorgia Meloni, and the fact that it was the only party opposing Draghi's government. At the same time, Five Star's support more than halved from 2018 to 2022, as it faced the challenge of being an upstart anti-establishment party that actually had to govern and work with mainstream parties. Its neither left nor right identity was hard to maintain when decisions actually had to be made, and public splits over issues like Ukraine also undermined it. So what's happened since the 2022 election? Well, polling and this year's European elections demonstrate just how effectively Meloni has solidified Brothers of Italy's position as the right-wing force in Italy, while her coalition partners, i.e. rivals, League and Forza Italia, remain stuck below 10%. With Five Star's continued decline too, the centre-left Democratic Party has re-emerged as the primary opposition under new leader Elie Schlein, and as such, Italy seems to have somewhat returned to a broadly bipolar party system, with a dominant party on the left and the right, each with their smaller potential governing allies. So, will it last? Well, for some time, maybe. In a sort of self-reinforcing way, the consolidation of the right around Brothers of Italy encourages those on the left to consolidate around the Democrats to have the best shot of ousting the right. Additionally, Meloni is pursuing significant electoral reform that would ban technocratic governments, introduce the direct election of the Prime Minister, and provide a guaranteed majority for the winning party, all in a bid to end Italy's chronic instability. However, the country's electoral system, often blamed for said instability, has been the subject of repeated reform attempts in the past few decades, and these kinds of changes often have unintended and unforeseen consequences. Now, fans of TLDR, like you, care about understanding the world around them, and that's where today's sponsor, Imprint, comes into play. If you care about building a life of learning, then Imprint is the app for you. It's a brand new way to learn, built from the ground up. And seriously, unless you've used the app before, you likely haven't experienced something like this. That's because Imprint is beautifully illustrated and animated, creating a highly visual, bite-sized and interactive learning experience. It's the perfect antidote to a world where social media tries to keep us mindlessly dopamine scrolling day in, day out. Their library includes courses on topics like psychology, history, philosophy, finance, productivity, and many more, and quick reads that you can consume in a single setting. In fact, I've been using the Essential Philosophy Theories and Thinkers course, and it's been an excellent way to brush up on some knowledge from university that I genuinely thought I lost. With all the developments happening these days, from elections to AI to geopolitical tensions, it's been helpful to revisit some of the world's greatest thinkers. So make yourself feel better about your screen time, build a real habit of learning every day, and join the millions of people using Imprint. Plus, if you use the link in the description, the first 200 people will get 20% off an annual plan. Plus, they'll know that you came from us.